Hello, Cyrus sir. Welcome back to my channel, which is called Cinephile Sanket, and this time we are revisiting the modern classic. I would say it is called Pretty Woman. आज हम Pretty Woman के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं, जिन like it stars Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. And so let us just speak like let us just like आपसे ही शुरुआत करते हैं कि आपने ये फिल्म पहली बार कब देखी थी साइरस सर, और लाइक जब देखी थी तो कैसा
Uh,
लगा था, और लाइक जस्ट रीविजिट पे भी कैसा लगा, मल्टीपल रीविजिट्स पे आपने भी जब
you know,
देखा हो?
uh, at the cost of sounding like a dinosaur, I actually saw the film around the time it released, which is in 1990. But ये film adult होने के कारण, and I was a छोटा बच्चा, ये film adult होने के कारण, I mean, obviously I couldn't go to the theaters. So me, I still remember I was lying right here in this very room on the sofa. उस जमाने में केबल तो होता नहीं था इतना. TV channels, so there was only the good old Doordarshan. So we saw it on a VCR,
Oh.
video cassette. My elder brother got from somewhere, and it was a big film, you know. उस जमाने में जब फिल्में रिलीज होती थी, I mean, अभी तो there are like a dozen films releasing every month. I'm just talking about dozen big films releasing every month. So you know, I mean, वो उतना चाम रहा नहीं. एंड प्लस आप इतना ट्रेलर्स देख लेते हो, इतना लोग पीपल कीप टॉकिंग अबाउट इट ऑन यूट्यूब एंड द बज इज सो मच दैट देयर इज नो you know newness when you actually end up seeing the film.
Hmm.
उस टाइम पे the only way you could watch a film was friends were talking about it in, you know, I mean, obviously you're in school, so mates wouldn't really because all of us were like really tiny kids. So your brother's kids would talk, your sister's kids would talk, your elder relatives, elder cousins, neighbors थोड़े बहुत बात करते. That is how you got to know of these kind of films. Pretty Woman was really, really famous. Julia Roberts was like the big thing. If I'm not mistaken, this was her debut film, if my memory
Oh.
serves me right. Into the scene and how. I think her debut, and if my knowledge about cinema is right, I think her debut was pretty much the biggest debut after Audrey Hepburn made her debut in Roman Holiday. Like, you know, how Hrithik Roshan, like today's generation would know of Hrithik Roshan, how he became this superstar after Kaho Na Pyar Hai. So Julia Roberts became this global star, you know, after Pretty Woman. She was all over the world, and I mean, it was magic. It was magic. I mean, and if you saw her on screen, I mean, as I said, I saw her on a small TV. But the moment you saw her and you just fell in love with her, I mean, that smile, that the way she smiles, her dimples. Uh, I mean, it's phenomenal. For my generation, who's grown up loving watching someone like Julia Roberts, I mean, she's still the epitome of what started. Obviously,
Hmm.
there have been Hollywood stars even before her. But if you really ask me, Sanket, I think Julia Roberts was pretty much like the last global superstar, because after that the whole magic of cinema itself started waning. Then you also had OTT shows, then you had everything. So जो big screen का जो magic जो था, वो एक stardom का magic था, that you associate with a Marilyn Monroe or a Audrey Hepburn or a Gregory Peck or a Sylvester Stallone or Tom Cruise, you know,
Hmm.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Roberts was pretty much the last of the lot. You know, I mean, up for argument, and some people might disagree with this, but
So
I
I
would say she
think
was the last of the superstars.
your voice is a little bit breaking. Like I think आपके आपका
Okay,
थोड़ा इंटरनेट
sorry,
का
sorry.
शायद.
I think the connection थोड़ुक I think unstable has it.
Yeah, I
Can
think
you hear me
you're
now?
also. Yeah, I think yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, you go ahead, sir.
So yeah, so I think she was the last of the global superstars, Hollywood superstars that we have seen.
हम्म. ओह ओके. सो एक्चुअली आई वॉच दिस फिल्म, लाइक मैंने ये फिल्म देखी आपके कहने पे ही, लाइक मैं बोला कि चलो आपने कैसे नॉटिंग हिल लाइक बोली थी कि चलो ये देखो, और फिर नॉटिंग हिल पे अपन ने डिस्कस किया था सर, और फिर जाके नेक्स्ट लव एक्चुअली पे किया था. सो मुझे पता चल गया कि आपकी टेस्ट सर कैसी है, आपको लाइक वैसे क्रिसमस जैसे लाइक फील गुड फिल्म बहुत पसंद है, तो लाइक ये फिल्म भी लाइक बहुत सुनने में आया था, और फिर जाके हमने डिस्कस किया था कि चलो इस पे करना ही चाहिए. वैसे सो मैंने जैसे कि ये फिल्म देखी जस्ट हाल ही में ही देखी जस्ट लाइक आई जस्ट वॉच दैट दिस फिल्म आई थिंक
few
जस्ट अ
days
फ्यू
back.
वीक्स बैक and I absolutely loved it. Sir, I watched Julia Roberts double billing. I like to be very honest. I watched Julia Roberts just like last month on the big screen. He like Julia Roberts and George Clooney starred in a movie called Ticket to Paradise, and it was amazing to see her back on the big screen. When I watched that film and even this film, I was just wow, like it's a good pure romance film, just having its little moments with like involving fun and happiness and like क्या क्या चीज जो एलिमेंट्स वो फिल्म में थी अभी वो एलिमेंट्स अभी फिलहाल अभी के फिल्म्स में पता नहीं आ रही है वैसे कि there are films that has the power to just like give you like just make you feel happy, make you feel alive, and this was one of that kind of film कि जब भी जूलिया रॉबर्ट्स like कुछ भी होता था उनके साथ like कुछ भी लोग उनको इंसल्ट करते थे तो वैसा था कि हम लोग को लगता था कि अरे यार ऐसा क्यों कर रहे हैं हम लोग को like वैसे था और जब भी like रिचर्ड गियर was being रिचर्ड गियर as like I don't like know but like कैसे लाइक वो वहां पे एज एन लाइक अ बिजनेसमैन नहीं लेकिन एज अ ह्यूमन उनके प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे थे और उनका लाइक जैसे बोल रहे कि नहीं शी इज गुड यार लाइक वैसे एट द एंड भी जब भी वो अपने फाइनेंशियर आई थिंक लॉयर को वो मारते हैं और ऐसे करके लाइक
Correct,
शी इज
correct,
समथिंग
correct.
एब्सोल्युटली या बट
Yeah,
यू आर
but
सेइंग समथिंग आई थिंक
it's like the classic, typical Hollywood love story. Today, Hollywood, and I'm not complaining, I'm just saying today, अगर आप हॉलीवुड के बारे में सोचते हो तो you only end up thinking of something like the Marvel universe, yeah, these kind of big films, which is great. I'm not saying they're bad films, but जो big screen में आप देखते हो, that's more of VFX. But when you look at a Notting Hill, you look at a Pretty Woman, I mean, that was more of storytelling. Today, I mean, they could take you or me as Spider-Man, and trust me, the box office wouldn't matter. So that's what I'm saying. That the whole star value, the superstars, the quintessential Hollywood star face that you would see. Julia Roberts was the last of the generation. Richard Gere, Julia Roberts, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, these are the last of the lot. हमें अभी रियलाइज नहीं हो रहा है शायद 5 साल 10 साल बाद हमें रियलाइज होगा that shit, people whom we used to actually, the reason, the faces we used to go for the movies, have all but disappeared. For all 5 years later, like today you have Alexa, which is an AI voice. 5 years later you might have an AI actor or a hero or a heroine, which is already, I think they're already trying to experiment that. So that whole magic of cinema is, for good, bad or ugly, is just disappearing. And you like it, you dislike it, but that's happening. So also, since you mentioned Notting Hill, do you realize that Notting Hill came exactly a decade after Pretty Woman? So that decade which was there, na, sir, जो 90s का पूरा decade था, I think Julia Roberts had a clean run. I don't think any other star, and there were a lot of other ones also. You had Sandra Bullock, and you had, a whole lot of other people as well. I mean, there were international stars like Sophie Marceau and other girl, I'm forgetting. Monica Bellucci obviously was very, very popular. But thing in terms of global stardom, and when I'm talking about global stardom, I'm talking about Hollywood. Monica Bellucci and Sophie Marceau are very big in French cinema and Italian cinema and European cinema. You can't touch them. I'm not even trying to say they were not big. I'm simply talking in terms of box office appeal, box office numbers on a global level. Hollywood जो आप बोलते हैं, quintessential Hollywood जो आप बोलते हैं, जो आजकल people think Hollywood, Bollywood have become a bad word and everybody's being very politically correct. But in those days, Hollywood was where, the magic of cinema came from. So you couldn't touch Julia Roberts for that decade. A lot of other big stars also, but I think that was also a very changing, defining decade uh, for them and to a large extent for us also. If you see, even in India, a lot of the defining films happened during the 90s. our decade started with a film like Ashiki. जो उसके पहले जो हम फिल्मों के बारे में सुनते थे, स्पेशली मिड 80s से लेट 80s तक कुछ अच्छी फिल्में भी थी, बट मोस्ट ऑफ द फिल्म्स were like senseless action, no proper music, no coherence, no proper storyline. And then comes an Ashiki with two new faces, beautiful music that kind of makes it a smash hit. And then comes another film like Dilwale Dulhania after 4 years. Then comes your Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, Dil To Pagal Hai, Maine Pyar Kiya,
Even Jo
this other
Jeeta Bhai
one.
Sikandar and all those films.
So this was, I think, a decade where the whole world was churning. A lot of other things also happening on the political global front. Also, you have to remember that 1990 was also a very interesting year when Pretty Woman came. It was a very interesting year even around the world. It saw the fall of the Berlin Wall, East Germany, West Germany, jo tha, that happened in end 89. But you saw that whole change happening. You also saw the breaking up, or should I say, the USSR, which we used to know,
Fall of
Soviet
the
Union.
USSR.
That the fall of the USSR. So a lot of changes were happening around the world. And then comes a film like Pretty Woman, which just kind of makes you fall in love with. So I think the world was waiting to fall in love with someone. And interestingly, sir, agar aap dekhe, that was a year when the world, I'm sure most people, most of you guys were not even born at that time. But that was the year in Hollywood people fell in love with two two stars, superstars. One was Julia Roberts because obviously she was the quintessential pretty woman. Like हमारे पास dream girl है हेमा मालिनी, which is God bless her at this age, and they have Pretty Woman. So Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts was one person. The other person, if you remember, same year जो release हुई थी, that was Home Alone, Macaulay
Oh,
Culkin. If
Macaulay
I'm sure if
Culkin.
you've seen Home Alone. So the world fell in love with the kid. All of us. I mean, I was myself a small kid, but you couldn't not fall in love with these two people. So I mean, I think magic of cinema was back. I don't think the world had fallen in love with somebody for a long time the way they fell in love with these two people. So and
Mhm.
Christmas time changing. Everybody's seeing kya ho raha hai, kya nahi ho raha hai. In those days you didn't have so many newspapers, so many टीवी चैनल्स. एक CNN था उस जमाने में, BBC था, थोड़े बहुत न्यूज चैनल्स थे. But obviously, your source material was very limited. So for you to fall in love was a lot easier. Today you see 10 shows, 20 shows on Netflix. So a Pretty Woman today may not be as exciting to the current generation as it was to us as kids in 1990s. Because today you'll say, "अरे वो तो काफी love stories देखे हैं." Yeah, today the stickiness is very short. आप एक फिल्म देखते हो 2 हफ्ते 3 हफ्ते बाद you move on. But Pretty Woman we're still talking about today because it came at a time when it stuck with people, you know.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. Like 30 साल
as
बाद
I
actually हम
guess
लोग इस बात कर
नसीब
रहे
भी
हैं. Like
बहुत बड़ा.
I think
True. I mean, the
absolutely.
timing has to be right, sir. Timing has to be right.
Actually, आपने सब
So
सब
Pretty
बहुत
Woman
बहुत
is
अच्छी
is
बात बोली.
plus and you had phenomenal music, sir. I mean, Spider-Man is, for example, or Captain America and all these other Avengers, जो आप बोल रहे हो, even Harry Potter, a lot of the rings are great films. Can you tell me one song that you can remember of any of these films? But Pretty Woman song, I mean, it was a song by Simon and Garfunkel, which was obviously much before Pretty Woman the film came. But that is a song which became so iconic. I mean, it was already a popular song. I'm not disputing that. But after the film, I mean, like a lot of my generation and subsequent generations were introduced to Pretty Woman, the song, because of this film.
But Cyrus,
And
one thing I wanted to ask you, like आपने कभी फिर जब भी रिविजिट किया हो इस फिल्म को, तो तभी शाहरुख खान वाला प्रिटी वुमन गाना वो कभी दिमाग में आया हो और ये फिल्म देखी हो आपने फ्रॉम आई थिंक कल हो ना हो.
a lot of love to Preeti Zinta because this song was addressed to her in Kal Ho Na Ho. A lot of love to Preeti Zinta. But I'm going to be biased. I'm saying you cannot touch Julia Roberts. You cannot touch Richard Gere. Because I'll tell you why. I'm not trying to belittle up our guys. I'm sure everybody around the world does awesome work. किसी का काम छोटा है बड़ा नहीं होता. I believe in that. Everybody is equal uh, in their own way. बट अगर आप सोचे सर, ठीक है, हॉलीवुड का एक मार्केटिंग डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन जो भी है दैट मसल इज देयर, बट आप फिल्म बनाते हो for the film to work in your own city. Like tomorrow if you're doing something, you're from Bombay, I'm from Bombay, हमारा शो जो भी है बॉम्बे में चल सकता है बिकॉज आपका सर्कल, आपका फैमिली, आपके जानने वाले सारे बॉम्बे में हैं, so there'll be a lot of people who will come and watch you. But to get people around the country to watch you takes a lot more. And beyond that, to get people from around the world to watch you, and in such huge numbers, so वो एक अलग लेवल का आप में एक्स फैक्टर चाहिए, and I'm not saying Preeti Zinta won't work या जो भी है, but you have to give it to these people at the cost of sounding politically incorrect. Have to give it to them that they have actually filled up shows around the world, not just in the US or Canada or UK. Because I remember watching Notting Hill in London, in 1999, and Julia Roberts is as big, or at that time was as big in Europe as she was in the US. And I'm saying big across the diaspora. Like our actors are big, but they are pretty much popular. Like our big stars, I'm talking about like Akshay Kumar or Shah Rukh Khan or whatever, they're popular amongst the Indian diaspora. Julia
Hmm.
Roberts is popular across multiple diasporas, so like so that is, I think, the magic and the charm and the charm of these guys. And as I said, I don't think that era is coming back anytime soon. I mean, you do have good actors today, but do we make those films? If Julia Roberts agar aaj aayi hoti, if an actress like that comes today, do we even have an opportunity or a film where we can exhibit that kind of talent? Sadly, no, because हमारा पूरा focus is on animation and VFX. Our focus is not on creating or telling good stories. So the world has changed, sir.
Absolutely,
So
sir. Actually, we read, I think, in a headline from Vox, like Vox.com. They actually, like, I don't think I've saved it. Like, I think I've saved it on Instagram, but they are telling that, like, why are, like, the most films, the romantic films, or the, like, films which are working right now, majorly we are working. They have, like, what they are doing is, like, उन लोग जो प्रीवियसली लाइक सुपर हिट्स में जो स्टार होते थे, आई थिंक जॉर्ज क्लूनी या जूलिया रॉबर्ट्स ओशंस में थे, और आई थिंक ओवन विल्सन और एक उनकी एक्ट्रेस जी को एक्ट्रेस थे, तो वो कैसे, और एक कोई तो फिल्म में आए थे, तो वैसे ही बहुत सारे ऐसे अभी के फिल्म्स है जो पुराने स्टार्स को लेते हैं और अभी ऐसे लाते हैं. सो लाइक आई डोंट थिंक लाइक समवन इज ट्राइंग समथिंग न्यू के लाइक कोई नया टैलेंट उठा के कुछ नया समथिंग ओरिजिनल जैसा बनाया, और आपने जैसे बहुत अच्छे से कहा सर कि अब ऐसे तरीके की फिल्म्स तभी भी चाहिए थी और अभी भी ऐसा कुछ चाहिए कि लाइक समथिंग वेरी लाइट हार्टेड एंड समथिंग वेरी मच टू द ग्राउंड कि लोगों को पसंद आए और लोग जस्ट कनेक्ट कर पाए, और लाइक वैसे. तो आपने बहुत अच्छी बात की थी सर.
one more thing I've realized कि unfortunately in cinema today, and जो मैं यहाँ पे आजकल देखता हूँ, where people believe कि जब तक आप 10-20 गालियां ना डाल दो, जब तक आप कुछ गंदगी ना दिखा दो, जब तक आप कुछ and I'm not trying to sound like a prude or some wise man who's trying to lecture people. No, this is just my opinion. Uh, each to his own. Every filmmaker is clever enough to do what he or she wants to do. बट वो लग रहा है लोगों को कि भैया जब तक ये सब ना करो तब तक आप ऑडियंस से कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाते. And I disagree with that because you look at some of the nicest films that we've spoken about. Even your James Bond films, you talk about Pretty Woman, you talk about Notting Hill, you talk about so
Even
many
Love
other films.
Actually.
Love Actually, like Pretty Woman is about a hooker. So, but I don't think there is any scene in the film. I mean, there is a little intimacy and everything, no doubt on that. But I don't think there's any scene in the film which today you cannot sit with your parents and watch. You know, so I mean, it's such a beautiful film. In fact, we've screened that for public at ITC. This was 2 years back. So हमने public screening किया था. I think you might be aware of that. Terrace पे. This was during Christmas time. And there was not, I mean, I was wondering क्योंकि मैं भी बहुत टाइम के बाद देख रहा था, and the GM of the hotel is asking यार, because theme is of a guy falling in love with a hooker, and generally क्या होता है कि यार prostitute है मतलब कुछ तो scenes उस तरह के होंगे, nudity होंगे. But when you actually look at the film, and then I don't know if too many people know about this, but Pretty Woman is actually a Disney film. You know, he is very, very clear about not having all these kind of things and stuff. That is why if you even see, the even when Julia Roberts goes back and stays in her house, and she has this conversation with Kit, who's her roommate and her fellow colleague in the same profession. The other girl is also a prostitute, and you never see anything shady, dark, depressing. No, and I mean, somewhere you realize कि ठीक है realism आप बोलते रहते हो, but yeah, let's agree and let's admit कि when you go into a cinema hall, you actually want to go and enjoy. यार. अगर आप realism देखना चाहते हो, you can always go to a chawl or a real life red light area and stuff. You don't need to pay 300 rupees and buy a 400 rupee popcorn to see realism on screen. So this is I think their thought process which has really worked well, and that is the reason why these films are you can comfortably sit and watch, and these are films I'm sure they're still doing very well on OTT platforms and TV screens and have a lot of repeat value even for public screenings. Like you won't believe, whenever we do public screenings for people, people are always asking for films like Pretty Woman, Love Actually, Notting Hill, because ये क्या फिल्म है आप सबके साथ बैठ के देख सकते हो सर. You don't have to
Absolutely.
cringe. Oh my God, इसमें तो 5 मिनट का कुछ nudity है. And I'm not against anything, sir. I'm not against. I'm not trying to judge anybody who is doing anything like that. I'm just saying when you make a film which is kind of for universal viewing, you increase the life of your film, you increase the audience size of your film. And that is a
Hmm.
fact. I mean, you can't
Absolutely, sir.
escape that.
Absolutely. एब्सोल्युटली सर. एक्चुअली मैंने जब भी ये फ़िल्म मतलब अभी के ज़माने में देखी थी, लाइक मुझे ऐसा लगा कि एक्चुअली ये फ़िल्म बहुत ही डेटेड है, बहुत ही फ्रेश है. लाइक ऐसा लगता है कि जब भी ये फ़िल्म देखते हैं कि लाइक ओके, तभी तो ज़माने लाइक उस ज़माने में लोगों को बहुत अच्छी तो लगी ही थी, नो डाउट. बट मुझे जैसे लगी थी काइंड ऑफ बहुत ही लाइक जूलिया रॉबर्ट्स का जस्ट एक्टिंग जस्ट स्टार्टिंग करियर देखने मिला था. लाइक आगे जाके हम लोग को Notting Hill. We also watched her in Ocean's Trilogy and many other even her Oscar-winning role in
Best
Erin Brockovich.
Erin Brockovich. Erin Brockovich is one of her landmark films. Not,
Mm,
I mean, popular film, but a heavy film. It's not for everyone.
absolutely. No, so that from that film she
Yeah.
won an Oscar, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a lovely film. It's based on a true story. I had seen it in the
Hmm.
theater. Even my friend's wedding, if you remember, my best friend's
Oh,
wedding.
no,
उसका
I
तो
haven't watched it.
उसका अनऑफिशियल रीमेक था मेरे यार की शादी है. If you
Oh, okay. No, no, no,
yeah.
actually I haven't, sir.
But I agree with you. The good thing with these films, na sir, is that they age well. So एक फिल्म का आप कैसे like forget Pretty Woman for a minute. Even if you look at any of the Rishikesh Mukherjee films like Anand or Chupke Chupke, these are films that age very well. And that is what or Raj Kapoor film. ठीक है, that is a black and white film. आप बोलोगे अच्छा पता चल जाता है. You look at Anari, you look at Shri 420, you look at Avara, you will not find it dated. You will not find अरे यार वो तो 50 साल पुरानी फिल्म है. No, Guru Dutt's film, these are classics. That is where your metal, that is where your class, your talent as a filmmaker comes out. A filmmaker whose films have not aged well is someone like Vidhu Vinod Chopra. A very big filmmaker in the 90s. Another filmmaker whose films are not aging that well to a certain extent. To a certain extent. It's again debatable. A lot of people say that is Rajkumar Hirani. I mean, it's
Mm.
up for debate. People might think, oh, but ye to acha hai, wo to acha hai. But that's okay. I'm just telling you. I mean, to his own. But a lot of the films, even Aditya Chopra's film, like if you look at Dilwale Dulhania, I don't know if you've seen the film, Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, but yeah, that's the experience. That is a film that hasn't aged well. you know
Absolutely, sir.
तो तो इसका बेसिक क्या मतलब होता है कि things that may have really looked cool in the 90s and 95 would not look very exciting in 2022. But Pretty Woman is a film that looked awesome, or Roman Holiday is a film that looked awesome in 1950s or 60s when it came, or A Sound of Music looked awesome in the 1960s and will still look awesome. you
Mhm.
know. So I mean that is
So,
that is the That is, how you say a film has aged well.
Absolutely. So you mentioned with me once that it's like very much similar to My Fair Lady. How was it like, and what were the similarities? You just
I'm
noticed something.
so glad you brought this up because I was about to, talk about that. So, My Fair Lady, for those who may have seen or who haven't seen, is the same story as Pretty Woman, and both of them draw their source material from this play by George Bernard Shaw called Pygmalion. I'll just explain you in one line what My Fair Lady is. So, My Fair Lady is where Professor called Henry Higgins. He's a professor of speech, professor of English literature, English language. He's a linguist basically. So he basically says that if Sanket is from, say, the Chupatpatti or the Chawl or from a very lower, kind of strata of life, I can actually kind of give him a good speech, the way he talks, the way he behaves, the way he interacts, and I can actually kind of, make him look like he's from a different strata of the society. So that is what the story of Pygmalion is. How you can change a person, I mean, or My Fair Lady for that man, how you can change the person just by changing the way he or she talks and behave, right? Pretty Woman also, if you see, where does she come from? She comes from a red light area. She's like this, hooker, somebody who sells herself to make money. So basically, from a very cheap strata of life. And what does our man Edward do? Richard Gere does. He kind of gives her this nice, decent, respectable, sophisticated life. After a few days, she starts dressing well, she starts eating well, she starts speaking well, she moves around in a different crowd, and she changes as a person. Which is what George Bernard Shaw wanted to say. I mean, it's not really just a play, it's actually a means of psychology. That is how people change. कभी कभी बोलते हैं ना कि जैसी संगत वैसी रंगत. A man is known by the company he keeps.
आई थिंक ये सीन में पता चलता है जब वो शॉपिंग करने जाते हैं, लाइक वो साइकोलॉजी तभी लाइक वो बदलती है लोगों की वैसे.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like for example, when she first goes and people just kind of shoo her away, saying, "Oh, you can't afford this" and stuff. For the shopkeepers, they tell her that is where the song comes. Oh, pretty woman. And I mean, and then when she dresses up and goes, and that is why they say, clothes maketh a man. It is your clothes. It is like today, if you are dressed in, and that is unfortunately how the world is. You can't blame the world. If you go somewhere, let's say to a good restaurant, in torn clothes, you could be having like $1 million in your pocket. Nobody's going to put their hands in your pocket and check. They are going to look at Sanket and say, oh, he doesn't look good. He doesn't look like somebody who can afford this meal. And they'll say, you go away. And the same Sanket goes, in a fancy car, dresses well, wears good clothes, talks well and speaks well and stuff, you will be treated differently, which is what Pygmalion says. That how you talk, how you behave is how you're perceived, and how, these things can change your life, which is what happens in My Fair Lady, and which is what happens in Pretty Woman. In fact, there was a Hindi film that was inspired by My Fair Lady. I mean, there's been lots of versions of My Fair Lady. There was this one particular film by Devan called Manpasand. You should watch it. It's a sweet film. Again, way back in the 70s. Complete remake. Remake तो नहीं बोल सकते, उस जमाने में remake नहीं होता था. But it's a copy. So Dev Saab plays Henry Higgins. His name was different, but he plays Henry Higgins. Then Henry Higgins also has a friend. I'm forgetting his name, but he's a colonel. He's a Colonel Pickering. Colonel Pickering. So that part in Manpasand was played by Girish Karnad sir. I mean, God bless both of them. Both of them are no more with us. But that role was played by Girish Karnad. And Eliza Doolittle, which was played by Audrey Hepburn, was played by Tina Muni. So she's not shown as a, so this one was shown as a flower girl, Eliza Doolittle. If you've seen My Fair Lady, I mean, you must watch it. It's a classic. It's a classic. I mean, it's one of my most favorite films. So she's a flower girl who sells flowers for like to like us zamane mein. The story is set in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. You had, it's a different era. It's such a, because George Bernard Shaw was of that time, no, sir. तो ये
Hmm.
स्टोरी भी पुरानी है. And the film also came in the 60s. So all the people associated with the film, play, everything are all now in the other world. I'm sure they're making films over there. All the good actors are there. All the good actors are right out there in the other world. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's a beautiful, beautiful this thing. It's set in old London, and you'll fall in love with everything, including Covent Garden, including London. I mean, you just can't stop yourself from falling in love with the whole setup. So, My Fair Lady was set in London, and this film was set in like Pretty Woman is set in New York, classic New York, Manhattan, and so that's the whole difference. But the
No, I think
storyline,
not New York per se. I think in San Francisco or LA. I think
if I'm not mistaken, I mean, sorry, maybe my memory doesn't serve me right, but if I'm not mistaken, I don't know. Is it like in the end also do they go to San Francisco because I or is this a Manhattan connection or there isn't? Or
No,
maybe
so
I'm just trying to.
he was about to go to, like, he had a 5 day meeting, like 5 day thing in Hollywood. Yeah, I think
Correct.
in Hollywood. Yeah, I just read it, and like he was in the Beverly Hills shore, and Beverly Hills shore, like it is associated with the Beverly of Hills, and because
The
like
who's
he
who of
was obviously from New
yeah,
York.
correct. And in fact, also there is this a certain scene, a certain part of the film where she obviously because she comes from a very different lower strata, so she doesn't really know the good things of life. And then he gives her this nice necklace and he flies her down in a private jet to watch this opera and he kind of treats her to this fancy dinner with good food and caviar and wine, and that is what Pygmalion is about. People become what you treat them. If I'm going to treat you like a prince, Sanket, you will become a prince. If I'm going to treat you like a pauper or a roadside urchin, you will start feeling like a roadside urchin. So, which is what the story, which is what George Bernard Shaw said. Pygmalion was not a musical. Pygmalion was a proper thing, but then these guys obviously turned it into a Broadway musical. So the story, the crux is the same. I mean, I would suggest you and your our viewers, if they have time, they can go watch My Fair Lady
My
and at
favorite.
least yeah. It's a classic. It's a classic. I mean, you can just watch it over and over again.
Absolutely, sir. So, with that, sir, I would like to just end this conversation on a very happy note by you recommending us and even me. I haven't watched it. You just mentioned me to watch My Fair Lady because it is very similar to Pretty Woman. But yeah, thank you so much for sir for coming to my podcast. And like this, like I think for many months we were just planning this out, and like we this time this day we both our schedules just matched, and we just are discussing this Pretty Woman film.
And I'm just so glad that you always give me an opportunity to come and discuss all my favorite films that I've loved. And thanks to you, I start reliving them. So thank you for giving me the
Absolutely,
opportunity.
sir. And this like conversation is all about reliving the classic, like the reliving many other films as well,
Correct.
like With You,
I always,
Notting Hill, and Love
I
Actually.
always like reliving popular feel-good films. Maybe that's the person I am, but I always like uh, feel-good films. Maybe I think that's who
Absolutely.
that's
Now we should sometime discuss this thing, Home Alone.
absolutely, sir. Absolutely, Macaulay Culkin. I'm sure you've seen the film.
No,
If
but we should definitely. I'll
he's,
definitely watch it, and we
yeah,
should. And I think we should do this around Christmas because I think it's a Christmas kind
It's
of
a
a film,
Christmas
right?
film.
Right?
Yeah. It's one of the biggest Christmas blockbusters for Warner Brothers ever.
Absolutely.
So and as I said, it's sad that they don't make films like Home Alone or Pretty Woman anymore. It's only technology, VFX, AI, and which is what we are also doing. You look at all the films that are coming out in the next 1 year. All the big films are only AI, VFX, VFX. I think we should just give our writers and storytellers chutti and just get all the the VFX artists and the animation artists to now make films. Well, that's all that we have become. In fact, I don't know if you've heard of this film called The Big Red Dog Clifford. uh, I don't know if you've heard this. It's a new film, The Big Red Dog Clifford.
No, I
So
haven't, sir.
it's again, special effects. I mean, it's special effects meets live action. It's a sweet film, but it's about this little child who ends up meeting a dog and befriends him and adopts him. And the dog is a red dog. That's why it's called the red dog. And it grows into something really huge. When you catch the trailer, you get an idea. It goes into something really huge. I mean, which is again very cute. But if I really want to see a dog film, I mean, I'd probably see A Dog's Way Home if you heard the film,
Hmm.
you know.
I've heard it.
So it's about a real dog, and I mean, real as in, yeah, it's actually a real dog and stuff. But these are, but as I said, we are living in a world where AI is taking over everything, and new world might
So with this, so I'll just recommend you once you like recommended me to watch My Fair Lady. So now I'll tell you to watch this film called Ticket to Paradise, which stars your favorite Julia Roberts and George
be.
Clooney.
They've also done this other film, if I'm getting the title right, it's called Money Monster.
Yeah, but there are very few scenes they are in together. Like
She's not even the lead. I mean, it's like a character.
no,
It's
she is. I've
no,
watched the film. She is.
it's not about really her. It's about George Clooney and that other guy who's kind of holding everyone captive. So I mean,
No, yeah,
sorry,
she
if you've seen the
obviously
film,
she's the person, actually she's the person who guides George Clooney, but like obviously unlike the this film, like where they both have
everyone's a
screen
character.
space,
There's no
everything.
hero here. Everyone is a character. There's no hero heroine kind of an angle or something. You
No,
know,
but unlike like Ticket to Paradise, they have many scenes, like I think almost every scenes together. But like that in that film, they and in the starting and the ending, they have the scenes together.
you ask me my two most favorite films, I mean, she's done a lot of work, obviously. My two most favorite films of Julia Roberts would be Pretty Woman and Notting Hill. I mean, also for the reason is that they're very happy films. You at the
But I
end of the
think
film,
you'll realize that why I'm recommending you Ticket to Paradise, because I watched that film in the theaters, and I was just I was blown away. I went into the theater, was just expecting nothing. I haven't watched the trailer of that film, but I came out of that film being very much like oh like दिल भर गया था वैसे, like I was feeling that kind of a way. मतलब जैसे जब भी मैंने फिल्म देखा कि दिल भर गया कि like okay, मैंने कुछ ऐसा फिल्म देखा कि मुझे ज़्यादा कुछ दिमाग नहीं लगाना पड़ा। जस्ट एक प्लेन सिंपल लाइट हार्टेड कुछ फ़िल्म देखी जो बहुत सालों से तो नहीं, लेकिन बहुत महीनों से नहीं मैंने देखी होगी मैंने।
yeah, 100% I'll watch it, sir. 100% I'll watch it. That's my problem to you. But
एब्सोल्युटली
thank
सर, थैंक
so much for having me here, Baba. God bless. Lots of love. And look forward to being back on your show very, very soon, my friend.
yeah, hopefully we'll see, like we'll just talk about Home Alone in Christmas. Let's
Done?
hope so.
Let's celebrate Christmas with Macaulay Culkin and go back to our memories. I shall
Absolutely, sir.
relive.
Absolutely,
But
sir. Thank you so much and good night, sir.
good night, sir.